Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate it. Before we start, can you click View Options in the top middle of your screen and select Side-by-Side mode? When you select Side-by-Side mode, take your drag bar in the middle of the screen so that you can see me half and my presentation in the other half. The first thing I want to say is I am not an expert in evaluation. I'm learning. I'm learning from Henry Miller. I'm learning from Carlos Puig. I'm learning from Elaine Lung. I'm learning from Dennis Dawson. It's something I'm putting together from all these experts. And this is what is my inspiration. 6 months ago, I was evaluating a speaker who was giving a level 5 speech. Reflect on your path. I realized the speaker was not prepared. I felt the speech did not meet the purpose. It was very tough for me to give an evaluation for him. I did not call upon that he did not meet the purpose of the speech. I stayed quiet. I was polite. I had a chat with my mentor, Dennis Dawson. He said that I can give him a direct feedback, but at the same time, I can care about him and be empathetic about it. And this is the inspiration for this workshop. There are a lot of things I'm going to go through, but here are some of the things which I will talk about. The first thing is why? Why do we need to evaluate? The second thing, what is radical candor? Initially, I didn't know what it was. What are we going to evaluate? I'm going to talk about two different things. One is just a person who is starting out their evaluation. And then I'm also going to talk about how to evaluate advanced speakers. I have a couple of slides regarding that. The magic of I statements. The system and the structure which I've learned from Stuart Murray. Feedback. What is an ideal feedback? I did not know initially. The things to avoid. Delivery. This is the slide I stole from Henry Miller. Practice. Elaine Lung, when she gave her evaluation workshop nearly 1.5 years ago at my club, she shared a valuable advice and the same thing which I implemented, and I'm going to share the same thing with you. Questions. This is an interactive session, so please ask me any questions you may have. I'm going to share a lot of things, but here are the 3 things which I want you to take it with you. The first and the foremost is radical candor, giving a challenging and direct feedback with empathy. The second thing, the I statements. The I statements connect with your speaker. And finally, giving an ideal feedback which has a why and a specific example attached to it. My question to you is, why do we need to evaluate? Anyone? Why do we need to evaluate?
Well, because we don't get better if we don't evaluate, if we don't see what we're doing wrong, we can't possibly fix it. Because you can't fix what you can't see.
That's very true.
Right.
It helps us to improve. It helps us to take it to the next level. Any other?
Evaluate to motivate.
Perfect. We need to motivate the speaker so that they feel inspired to work on their speeches more for the next level. One more thing I want to attach is sometimes as a speaker, I want to know what things I did well, because sometimes I don't know what is connecting with the audience. So the audience feedback helps me to understand, oh, these are the things I am doing well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your feedback. The next thing I want to talk about is radical candor. Do you know about, anyone knows about radical candor?
It can get you into trouble.
Sorry.
Yes, but I will give you a. But if you're empathetic, then it changes everything. I'll talk to you more detail about it. I didn't know about radical candor. I first heard of it from Dennis Dawson, and then I did some research, and then I came across a professor from Stanford and his slide decks. I'll share some of his slides. He said that people, when they give a feedback, their feedback is into one of these 4 quadrants. Can you recognize where is your quadrant? Sometimes we care personally, we care deeply about the person, but we are too afraid to give them feedback, and we are so polite. There are other quadrants where we don't care very much, and we still give a very direct, challenging feedback. So I'll go through each and every quadrant. Here is the first and the worst quadrant to be in. Here, in this quadrant, we don't care what they say. We don't care about the speaker, and we are very polite. In this quadrant, whenever someone gives a feedback, they are not nice about it, and they're not very clear about it. I have not seen many examples in this quadrant in Toastmasters. This is the quadrant, ruinous empathy. I have seen myself in this quadrant. I've given feedback because I really care too much about the speaker, but I'm not very direct about it. I'm so polite that sometimes I don't end up telling them what exactly they need to work on. So be careful with this one. I've seen in some of the advanced clubs that where they give so much of feedback, but it does not have the care into it. Because of that, I myself found it very defensive to take all that feedback. And finally, the radical candor. Here, people giving feedback in this quadrant deeply care about the person. They are very empathetic in giving that feedback. Also, at the same time, they challenge them and give a very direct feedback. Whenever feedback is in this quadrant, we can see the maximum amount of growth. As you can see, when the feedback is in that quadrant, you can see the maximum amount of growth. When the feedback is in obnoxious aggression, I've seen myself, I've been to the advanced club, I was so defensive about it. I got so much of feedback that it was very tough for me to take in. I felt I was like beaten down. The other 2 quadrants, I've seen myself to be in ruinous empathy many times, and I'm trying to move to radical candor. So what are the things we need to evaluate? There are 3 things we are always evaluating. One is the speech content, the speech delivery, and the overall speech presentation. In the overall speech presentation, you can talk about the impact of the speech. How did the speech impact you? Those are the things we evaluate. As Henry has told us many times, we are not evaluating the person. If we don't like the person, it's okay. We can keep that aside and just focus on the speech of the person. If someone is just starting out on the evaluations, these are the some things, some different parameters which we can evaluate. This is not a comprehensive list. It's something, some of the samples I've put in together. But what happens? Mostly we come across a lot of advanced speakers. How do we evaluate them? There are various ways of evaluating them. Suppose if it is a contest speech, someone is preparing for an international speech contest, we can use the ballot, the judges' ballot, to the judges' criteria to evaluate their speeches, especially for international speech contest. Or if it's a humorous speech contest, we can use the judges' criteria for the humorous speech. If someone is using a persuasive speech, you can evaluate them based on in terms of logos, pathos, and ethos. How is do they meet the criteria of logos? Do they have the structure in their speech, the opening, the body, the conclusion? Are they giving enough reasoning or proof? The second thing is ethos. Are they authentic? Are they creditable? Can we trust them? Because ethos is something very important. The more authentic we are, the better the connection is with the audience. The third thing is the pathos. Are they able to connect with our emotions, our values, through their stories and through their vivid languages? So you can give an evaluation in terms of these three if it passes the criteria for logos, pathos, and ethos. The next thing about an advanced speaker, these are the 5 secrets of the world famous speakers. I learned this from Richard Green. He has a TED talk about it. If we want to evaluate an advanced speaker, we can evaluate in terms of these 5 secrets. The first thing is just the voice, their tone of voice, which is 38% of the communication, or their body language, which is 55% of the communication. The second criteria to evaluate is, do they have a compelling message? Because compelling message really connects with us. The third thing, and it is very important, it should not be a speech, it should be a conversation. Once it is a conversation, it has more impact on the audience. The secret number 4, which I'm learning about, there are actually 4 communication languages, 4 human communication languages. One is the visual language, where is the person has the energy or the excitement. The second human language is auditory. Is the person articulate? Is their voice attractive? This is auditory language. Then the next one is auditory digital language. Are they using the details, the facts, the analysis to support their message? And finally, kinesthetic, human language. Kinesthetic, do you feel the warmth? Do you feel the connection with them? Most of the speakers only use 2 languages. 10% of the people use 3 languages. John McCain was one of them. He was using 3 languages. And very few people use all 4 languages. And finally, can you feel the authentic passion in their speech? And when you feel that passion, you really connect with it. So these are different evaluation criteria which we can use. As we know, there are 3 magic I statements: I heard, I felt, I saw. Observation is the highest form of human intelligence. And that's why we use this language. I felt, I heard, I saw. The next slide, it details all the different I statements. I got this slide from Stuart Murray, and I made some minor changes to that, especially to make the speech more effective. We can use the language, I love to hear, I like to see, I wanted to know. If something was detracting in their speech, we can use a very gentle language like, I didn't understand, I was confused by. 3 weeks ago, Luisa Montalvo is a second place winner of the 2019 workshop. She was giving a speech and one person came to her and said something he disliked about the speech. And when she asked that person, what did he dislike? He said he didn't understand what she was trying to do. And that helped her to make that speech better. So if we use that kind of language, it helps the speaker to make their speeches better. We can always use the positive impact, like, I love the message about your speech. I really enjoyed your emotions or your gestures. These are the various I statements. The system. Mostly when we are taking the notes, when the speaker is giving the speech, we use the positive. Oh, yeah, positive for gestures. Negative, maybe if the pauses are missing. But there are two more signs which we can use to take the short notes while the speaker is giving the speech. The two of them are question mark. If we are confused about something, we can write the question mark about that. If something is very insightful and we really love it, we can give a star mark. So this is a system of taking notes while the speaker is giving the speech. Structure. An evaluation should be exactly like our normal speech. It needs to have an introduction, a body, and a summary. Mostly in the introduction, I like to share how the speech affected me. And I want to use only 2 sentences or 10 to 15 seconds, because at the end, we only have 3 minutes for the evaluation plus 30 seconds of grace period. Here is the overall structure of the evaluation. As I told you in the introduction, I use how the speech affected me. And in the body, be careful with the body. I wrote 2 to 3 things, but if you stick with 2, that's okay. Because sometimes we don't want to go, we have to make sure we don't go over time. Select 2 to 3 things you liked about the speaker or the speaker did effectively, and 2 to 3 things the speaker could do to make their speech more effective. See here, I'm not using the language of improvement. I like to use to make their speech more effective. If I'm using two things for the speaker did effectively and 2 things the speaker could do to make the speech more effective, then I also add the best thing about the speech. And finally, the recap of the body. When I'm doing the recap of the body, I try to end on a positive note. I try to recap the things the speaker could do effectively first, followed by the things the speaker did effectively. Our goal, as Henry pointed out, is to motivate the speaker. Feedback. This feedback, actually a good feedback, I go back one more time. An opinion is something which does not have a why attached to it. A good feedback, a feedback is something which has a why attached to it. And ideal feedback is something which has a why attached to it, and plus it has a specific example. I'm still working on making sure that I always give that specific example. So when we give that specific example, the speaker exactly understands what feedback we are trying to give. Superlatives. Solazar was the first person who pointed out, if we use great or amazing too many times, it does not help the speaker. He says that when an evaluator uses amazing, great, way too many times, it just shows the laziness of the usage of English language. So if we can, please try to avoid superlatives because they don't give any information to the speaker. Rambling. My fellow Toastmaster was participating in an evaluation contest. He had really good points, but in a couple of the points, he took more time to explain the same point over again and again. At the end, the time ran out, he could not summarize it, and he lost the evaluation contest. So if you can, please try to avoid rambling. Be very specific, and minimum words is very crispier. Remember that. For a regular meeting, if we are doing an evaluation, always connect with the speaker. Understand what project they are working on. Get that evaluation form and review that evaluation form. And sometimes it's also good to ask the speaker, is there anything they are looking at? And when we know what they want us to look at, so we have a other framework too, apart from our evaluation form. Always make sure you have the right evaluation form. And if you can, please fill the evaluation form after the speech and email that to the speaker so that they can have it documented. And I have also have the link of 65 evaluation form. I can share this presentation with you, then you can get this link. Delivery. This slide was given by Henry Miller. Henry Miller says, be very specific in your delivery. Like when a fellow Toastmaster was giving the speech, her message was very good. When she started using Let It Go, it reminded me of that Frozen movie. So be very specific in that your message. As we saw, speak for yourself. I have a habit of sometimes using we in my statements, and the fellow Toastmasters will immediately point it out. So if you can, please use I saw, I felt, I heard. I was afraid initially to give feedback or the evaluations. I'm learning to be more sincere, and it's just, try to use just I saw, I felt language so that the speaker knows it's just my opinion. Sometimes if someone is giving an icebreaker, don't try to give them 3 or 4 ways to make their speech more effective. Just give them one way to make their speech more effective. As in the introduction, always share how the speech affected you. That means a lot to the speaker. As Henry says, don't evaluate the speaker, evaluate the speech. If you don't like the person, forget about it. Just focus on the speech. In August, Elaine Lung gave a evaluation workshop. She said to practice by using YouTube. When Renee and I were working on the evaluation contest finals, we just went through 18 semi-final speeches. And that helped Renee with her practicing for her evaluations. And she won the district evaluation contest. So YouTube is the best place to practice. And also sign up as an evaluator. It will help you to improve as an evaluator. Finally, here are my 3 main takeaways. Remember to give a direct, challenging feedback with empathy. If you can give feedback in this quadrant, it will help the speakers to grow and take their skills to the next level. Radical candor feedback changes the club. We need to be empathetic though. Use of I statements, I saw, I felt, I heard. And finally, give a feedback with a why and a specific example attached to it. Questions?
May I?
Santa, go ahead.
Okay. What's the 4th magic language? You said auditory, visually, kinesthetic. What's the 4th one?
Auditory, digital.
Auditory, digital.
Digital, auditory, digital, where the speaker gives details, facts, and analysis. They support their message with details, facts, and analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Carlos?
Yes.
Avi, I've been thinking about personally what the difference is between coaching somebody to do a contest evaluation, a winning evaluation at a contest, and coaching somebody to give an evaluation at a club where you know the people you're a member of and you have some history. Can you comment on, are there different styles for contests and club evaluations, or do you see that as just one thing?
No, actually, there are 2 different things. In contests, you have to be so specific, right? Like suppose if you are giving it in a regular club, you don't have to go through the summary. You can spend more time on those points, but make sure you hone those points with the speaker. They really need to understand those. So, like if I'm doing at a club, I would not worry about the summary, but make sure I will make sure that I'm giving them direct empathetic feedback.
So less
Same.
structured. At the club, it's a little less structured.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You need to unmute.
Unmute. I'm here. I'm putting it on speaker view. Thank you. Okay, Abhijit, I was really intrigued by the whole table you had at the beginning about radical candor.
Yes.
I think that this is probably the biggest challenge I see at Toastmasters clubs in general. And I think if you could boil it down for like one tip that we could take back to our clubs and give it in a specific, clear way to encourage people who say, oh, I can't tell you anything, it was perfect, right? There's always something, always. And I think what you had about the advanced speakers definitely helps. But is there one thing that you could like tell us to take back to other clubs or in the future share with people about how to get to radical candor quickly?
Share your feelings. You know, any speech affects you. And sometimes we are afraid to share those feelings. And if you can share that with empathetically, that will make an impact. Because you know immediately, like someone is reading the script and they're going too fast. And it's like, sometimes I'm afraid to say that. But if you share that, that will make the difference to them.
Any other questions, Henry? Unmute.